Forbes just dropped a bombshell that has the entire WNBA world in chaos, and A'ja Wilson's reaction is exactly what you'd expect from someone watching their crown slip away. The 2025 power rankings are out, and Caitlin Clark, sitting at number 4 as the highest-ranked athlete, has sent shockwaves through the league that nobody saw coming. But here's where it gets absolutely wild. Wilson, stuck at number 15, has completely lost it in ways that expose everything wrong with how veterans treat rising stars. The meltdown we're witnessing isn't just about rankings. It's about a 3-time MVP watching a second-year player become everything she thought she was destined to be. Before we dive into this absolute mess, drop a comment below. Do you think Wilson's jealousy is justified, or is she just bitter about Clark's success? And hit that subscribe button, because what's coming next will blow your mind. The money tells the whole story here, and Wilson knows it. Clark pulled in $8.1 million last season while dealing with injuries that kept her sidelined for multiple games. Think about that for a second. She made more money missing games than most WNBA players make in their entire careers. Wilson's been in the league for 7 years, has 3 MVP trophies, and still can't touch those numbers. The Nike deal alone, worth $28 million over 8 years, makes Wilson's entire career earnings look like pocket change. But that's just the beginning of why Wilson's losing her mind over this ranking. What happened next would shock everyone who thought this was just about basketball. Wilson started posting cryptic messages on Instagram the moment Forbes announced their list. "Some people know what real work looks like," she wrote, followed by photos of her MVP trophies. Then came the desperate attempts to remind everyone she exists. Suddenly, Wilson's posting throwback content from her championship runs, tagging Nike in every photo, acting like she invented women's basketball. The timing wasn't subtle at all. Every single post came within hours of major Clark news breaking. Wilson even started a whole campaign about respecting the game that fooled absolutely nobody. But that wasn't the whole story of how deep this jealousy runs. Remember when Clark signed with Gatorade and State Farm in the same week back in early January? Wilson immediately posted about her longtime partnerships with brands nobody's heard of. She started sharing photos from corporate events she'd done years ago, trying to prove she was marketable too. The desperation was painful to watch. Here's a player who should be celebrating her own success, instead spending every waking moment trying to diminish Clark's achievements. Wilson even went as far as posting her speaking fees for the first time ever, something she'd never done in 7 years until Clark started commanding 6 figures for appearances. The real explosion came when attendance numbers for the new season got released. Indiana Fever games are selling out in minutes, even with Clark recovering from her ankle injury. Meanwhile, Las Vegas Aces games where Wilson plays are struggling to fill seats despite coming off a championship season. Wilson tried spinning this as bandwagon fans not understanding real basketball, but the numbers don't lie. Television ratings for Fever games are up 400% from last year. Networks are literally rearranging their schedules to broadcast more Indiana games. Wilson's response? She started complaining about media coverage being unfair and biased towards certain narratives. What really exposed Wilson's true colors was her reaction to Clark's injury update last week. While every other player in the league posted support messages, Wilson stayed completely silent for 3 days. When she finally said something, it was a generic "hope she heals up" with no mention of Clark's name. Compare that to her paragraph-long posts when other players get injured. The pattern is so obvious, it's embarrassing. Wilson can't even fake being supportive when it comes to Clark. She's that threatened by a player who's revolutionizing the game while dealing with setbacks that would destroy most careers. The Forbes methodology makes Wilson's complaints even more ridiculous. They don't just look at on-court performance. They measure total influence, marketability, and impact on the sport. Clark checks every single box at levels Wilson has never reached. Social media engagement alone tells the story. Clark's posts generate 10 times the interaction Wilson gets. Merchandise sales aren't even close. Clark jerseys outsell Wilson's by margins that retailers won't even publish because it's that embarrassing. Corporate sponsors line up for Clark while Wilson has to beg for attention from brands that used to call her first. Here's where things get really interesting, though. Sophie Cunningham, who just joined the Fever this season, has been watching this drama unfold and recently called out the veterans for their treatment of younger players. Cunningham posted, "Some people build others up, some tear them down. I know which side I'm on," right after Wilson's latest tantrum. The message was clear. Even established players are tired of watching Wilson and others attack Clark for being successful. Cunningham's been nothing but supportive of her new teammate, showing what real leadership looks like in professional sports. The speaking engagement situation has become Wilson's biggest source of jealousy. Clark commands $200,000 for corporate appearances while recovering from injury. Wilson's been doing these events for years and never broke $50,000 until she started inflating her prices to compete with Clark. The problem is, nobody's paying Wilson's new rates. Companies would rather wait for Clark to heal than book Wilson at a discount. That's gotta sting for someone who considers herself the face of the league. Wilson's shoe deal drama deserves its own chapter in this mess. She keeps posting about having a signature shoe like it means something, but the sales numbers are brutal. Nike basically gives them away at this point, while anything with Clark's name sells out immediately. Wilson even started a campaign asking fans to buy her shoes to support veterans, which might be the most desperate marketing move in sports history. The whole thing backfires when people pointed out Clark doesn't even have a signature shoe yet, and still moves more Nike product than Wilson ever has. But wait, it gets worse for Wilson. The 2025 All-Star voting opened last week, and early returns show Clark leading by margins nobody expected. She's getting more votes while injured than Wilson's getting as the reigning MVP. Wilson tried dismissing this as popularity contest voting, but that's exactly the point. Clark is more popular because she's more exciting to watch and follow. Fans don't care about Wilson's MVP trophies when Clark makes every game must-watch television even from the bench. The television contracts tell another story Wilson doesn't want to hear. Networks are already negotiating 2026 deals based primarily on Clark's presence in the league. The numbers being discussed would make the WNBA's current deal look like spare change. Wilson's been in the league 7 years and never moved the needle on TV rights. Clark did it in one season while missing games. That's the difference between a good player and a transformational athlete. What's really fascinating is watching other veterans distance themselves from Wilson's behavior. Diana Taurasi, who initially had issues with Clark, recently praised her impact on the game. Sue Bird called Clark the future of basketball in an interview last week. Even players who were skeptical are recognizing what Clark brings to the sport. Wilson's becoming isolated in her bitterness, looking more pathetic with each passive-aggressive post. The merchandise numbers from this month alone should humble Wilson, but apparently haven't. Clark's jersey sales in January exceeded Wilson's total sales for all of last year. Think about that. 1 month versus 12 months, and it's not even close. Retailers are begging for more Clark merchandise while Wilson's gear gets moved to clearance racks. The market has spoken, and Wilson can't accept what it's saying. Wilson's latest attempt to stay relevant involves challenging Clark to various competitions once she's healthy. She wants skills challenges, three-point contests, one-on-one games, anything to prove she's better. The problem is nobody cares about these manufactured competitions. Fans want to watch Clark play basketball, not waste time on Wilson's ego trips. The challenges feel desperate, like a fading star trying to attach herself to the new generation's success. The international appeal difference might be the most shocking part of this whole situation. Clark's drawing massive audiences in Europe and Asia for WNBA games. International broadcasting rights are exploding because of her global appeal. Wilson's been playing professionally overseas for years and never generated this kind of worldwide interest. Clark did it without ever leaving America. That's got to eat at Wilson, who thought international play would make her a global star. Social media metrics from this week show the gap widening even more. Clark gained 500,000 followers while recovering from injury. Wilson lost followers after her latest jealousy-fueled posts. Brands track these numbers religiously, and they're all seeing the same thing. Clark drives engagement while Wilson drives people away. The algorithm doesn't care about MVP trophies when one player generates 10 times the interaction. The coaching and front office response to this drama has been telling too. Indiana's organization has rallied around Clark, making sure she has everything needed for recovery. Meanwhile, there are rumors that Las Vegas management is frustrated with Wilson's social media behavior and how it reflects on their organization. Professional sports is a business, and Wilson's jealousy is bad for business. Make sure you're subscribed, because what happens next in this rivalry is going to define the WNBA for years. Drop a like if you think Wilson needs to accept reality and move on. The 2025 season is shaping up to be a referendum on what really matters in professional sports. Wilson can keep posting about respect and veteran status, but fans are voting with their wallets and attention. They want to watch Clark play basketball, buy her merchandise, and follow her journey. Wilson's becoming a cautionary tale about what happens when jealousy consumes someone who should be secure in their own accomplishment. The Forbes ranking just confirmed what everyone already knew. Influence matters more than individual awards, and Clark has more influence accidentally than Wilson has tried to manufacture it. This isn't ending anytime soon, and Wilson's only making it worse for herself with each desperate attempt to reclaim a spotlight that's already moved on.